Buff Nation, what up? And all of my BWBs. That means my bandwagon buffs. Where y'all at? Hope all is well. Hello. Good afternoon. Good evening. Welcome to TLP Live. This is an impromptu show. I'm going live so that I can talk to you guys about our schedule. There are a few hidden surprises in this schedule that I would like to talk about tonight. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, or depending on where you are. Right now, it is 7:02 on the East Coast, New York time. Colorado finally has their schedule. There's been a few things transpiring in Buff Nation or around the Buffs. And I take my break tonight. I take a break from my video that I have slated to do so that I can talk to you guys live about our schedule. A couple of shows, I'm sure people have already done this, but there's a unique perspective that I want us to talk about this schedule. And we must have a conversation. Peter Investor, how you doing? Feel so real. Blessings to you. Chanel all day. Hope all is well. So yeah, guys. So I had to come live. I had to pause my video that I was doing to release tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on what time I finish editing. So I paused that video because I think this is a pressing conversation that we must have, and it can't wait till Friday. I don't want this sting to since the schedule dropped today, I don't want to lose that sting of the schedule dropping and wait all the way till Friday for us to do this. So I decided, let me go ahead and go live so that we can talk about it live. But there's a few surprises. There are a few things on that schedule that I wanted to pick out. And Phil, I believe it was you. You was like, well, that's the first four games are sort of like in that order. But now we have the real schedule. We have the Big 12 schedule. And Colorado has a few surprises, to say the least. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. That's why I'm here. And then also, obviously, you know, whatever else is going on around the Buffs. And let's go. Let's talk about it. Is that Flocka? Flocka, welcome back, bro. Where you been, bro? DeMar Campbell, what up with you? Purple Orca. Amen. Amen. So Peter Investor is starting off the show saying CP said they will have more linebackers for depth. Okay. What quality of linebackers are we getting for depth? And let's start with that. Why not? Let's start with we have edge rushers. And I know one thing that a lot of people don't know is that basically an edge rusher is a linebacker. Because you're like outside linebacker, you're on the edge, right? You're not on edge, but you're on the edge. So those edge rushers that we got or that we're getting in-house, those guys can be easily converted to linebackers to stop the run. Now, how many quality linebackers are still out there in the portal that we can get? We just got BJ Green, and he was an edge rusher that that's pretty much covered it in the transfer portal. We just got him. So unless somebody can convince me otherwise, but from my studies and the things that I'm looking at as far as linebackers, depending on how much weight, you know what I'm saying, depending on the weight and the height, linebackers and edge rushers are kind of like synonymous, or they go hand in hand. So we're going to have to start talking about, are we looking for like specific linebackers to do specific things, or are we converting some of those edge rushers, or just saying our edge rushers are going to be our linebackers? But anyways, we're going to dig deep in. Right here, guys, on top of your screen, you'll see jointlplive@gmail.com. That is the email that you can call into the show. You email me, I send you a link, and we can discuss it. You can voice your opinion. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been in the comments today of other shows. I know DMVR Buff, they had a live show They had this thing scheduled. I saw online, but I didn't actually join the show because I was a little bit busy. You know what I'm saying? You're doing research and you're doing videos. You get a little busy, so you don't have time to be, ping ponging all over the place. But yeah, but this schedule is out. We're going to talk about it, and I want to talk about what Phil just brought up. And yeah, so this is like an emergency show or an impromptu show. So we're going to talk about it. That means I will not be uploading a video tonight. I will just wait and upload a video tomorrow night. This will just serve as the video that I put out. So Peter Investor said edge rusher, rush the QBs or the running backs. Yeah, so that's the linebacker. That's pretty much a linebacker. If you're an edge rusher, you're basically a linebacker. So that's how I see it. So okay, what do you think about this schedule? Chat. Phil So Real said, let's put this up, Phil. I haven't seen many guys from Michigan leave like people thought. That's why they promoted from within. I do think after spring there will be some big names in the portal. You know what? I'm not necessarily like on that same wave as far as what's left in the portal and if other big names are going to be in that portal. I think most of the big names, Shirley, how you doing? I think most of the big names have decided where they're going to be at. Now it's going to be, I would say auxiliary guys that are going to be left. If we're doing the second shopping in the transfer portal that's in April, I don't know that we're going to be getting big names in that portal. And so at this point we have certain needs. I think what the needs that we have currently are going to be depth. It's not necessarily going to be like we need like key players anymore. I would say I think now we need more depth. We need guys that are going to fill in spots, in places. So, and then I got a video. I got a video that's coming that's going to talk more about the empty spots that we got, and who are going to fill some of those empty spots. But we still have a few key positions that we need to fill. But Colorado as a whole, like if you think about Colorado's offense, our offense is stacked. The defense is really getting stacked. Man, from last night's video, I'm looking at on one of the well-out videos, I'm looking at Block Bully with the gold hair. I'm like, this Nigerian dude ain't playing at all. This is crazy how crazy that dude look, how buff and crazy that he looks. I want to say something without having to say pause. My goodness. Let's talk about this schedule. First game is obviously going to be North Dakota State. All right. KMS says next wave is guys who got pushed to the bench. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I think these you're shopping for depth and maybe a diamond in the rough somewhat. Maybe you find a guy that's really hungry, that wants to play really hard, and he just needs an opportunity at this point, because you're not shopping with names at this point. Now you're shopping in the second half. You're going to be shopping. I don't want to call them the disgruntles. that wouldn't be fair to call somebody a disgruntled. Yeah, man, you shopping depth, and who else do we need? See, I don't want to give out too much information because some of these research videos are going to start like, you know what I'm saying? They're going to start kind of running over each other. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been trying my best to skirt around certain things because I got videos that you know what I'm saying, that are coming that are going to answer some of those questions. So I don't want to give everything away and then in the live, because people don't really watch the lives like that. So I don't want to, the lives are great for live interaction. So, and YouTube doesn't really do that well after the video is done. So if you are watching, I don't mean to say that you don't watch it, but if you are watching post live or after the live, then you know what I'm saying, the nuggets you pick up here and there, but watch the videos, watch the actual production videos, That's where I put a lot of nuggets in. But this schedule is interesting. And the thing about the Big 12 guys, we've been discussing it over and over again, and we've been trying to exhaust every corner. I guess I'm going to call it my new series, the Spygate. Okay, the Big 12 Spygate. So I'll just call it that, because I'm doing everything that I can do in those Spygate videos to bring you any type of nuances, any nuggets to make sure we understand every corner of the Big 12, the best teams like the Kansas, the Oklahomas. Now we're starting to understand. If you're keeping up with the videos, now you're starting to understand, because some of the teams are now being repeated. Like, you're starting to see narratives being repeated. You're like, okay, so I didn't know before Kansas is a problem. You got your Oklahoma, you got your Kansas. Those guys are going to be the problem. And then you got your Texas Tech. So our schedule is not so tough that if we are competitive in 2024, that we can pull out a few wins here and there. And it's going to have to, I think the coaching staff are going to have to step up, because I think this time around, the talent is there. Colorado has the talent to be competitive in all of these games. So this is going to be heavy. This is a lot of our efforts are going to weigh heavily on the coaching staff. And at this point, the playoffs are finished. The playoffs are done. So we are waiting for our DC. I would say any day now, since the playoffs are over, Coach Prime should be announcing whoever the DC or whoever he's deciding that his DC is going to be. We should be getting that name. And at this point, the schedule's out. Teams like North Dakota State, if you guys saw the video that I put out, the last video, basically, wins and predictions about the wins and losses, and then we're reading between the lines. So a lot of these teams, especially the ones that we are predicted to lose to, they're winnable games. They're winnable games because, I'm sorry if I keep staring at my if I keep staring over here, I got another screen right here, and it has the schedule right there, and I'm staring at it. So let me go ahead and share that with you guys so that we can start this conversation off right. Let's go. How y'all doing tonight? Everybody's good? DC, what's up, man? I didn't see you there. How you doing? That Ariel's name is a little hard to pronounce, so I'm gonna leave it alone a little bit. Okay, so here we go. That's screen number one. All right, let me take all this other stuff off the what am I doing here? Give me a second, guys. Stop sharing. So this screen sharing stuff wants to get fancy, but I'm about to share my screen for you so we can see the schedule. Interesting. All right, so far my screen sharing is acting a little bit up, but I'll do that in a second. But let's talk a little bit. See you buff alcoholic. Who's that? Oh, Quincy, what up, man? Lord, that's buff off, right? Lord have mercy. Where you been, man? Hope all is well. Let me make sure I say Viral Authority, what's up with you? Hope all is well. I see Flock in here. Flocker, what up with you, Flock? What's going on, everybody? What do y'all think about this schedule? Let's talk about this schedule. Do y'all see anything? Do y'all notice anything in this schedule? Go ahead and put that in the comments. Do you notice anything in this schedule? We can start the conversation with that. What do y'all notice about this schedule? There's a few glaring things that you notice about this schedule, but I want you guys to tell me what do y'all notice about this schedule? It's real interesting how Colorado got this. How Colorado was able to pull this schedule off like this. But I want to know what you guys think about this schedule. in the comments. Let me know in the comments. I wanna read some of those things. Just give me a moment. Let me see if I can get myself situated here. All right, so let's see if we can carry this one over. All right, so let's see. Boom. Okay, so KMS says it's a weak schedule. Does that play into our playoff aspirations if we don't win the conference? That plays into our, if it's a weak schedule, then that plays into the hands of the committee. I noticed there's no ranked teams. Trims, I think you meant to say teams, right? DC said Big 12 will have 4 teams that ended. Hold on, let's see here. So the Big 12 will have 4 teams that ended the year ranked. It's not a cakewalk by any means. Either folks are underestimating teams or overestimating CU. Especially that video that I put out with Jack Carlo and his ranking that he did. I don't know that. See, I'll tell y'all this. I think CU has the talent and the ability to really do what people are projecting, what some of these writers are projecting. But the only thing is, the question becomes, can CU play to their potential? I think that's the only thing that we'd be missing. At the end of the day, we underachieved last year. Now, many people may not agree to that, but I feel like we underachieved last year. We never played to our potential. Because every single week, another team showed up. Every single week, a different team showed up. Colorado never really put it all together. We never really had a full, maybe even at TCU, and I'll tell you that, even the first 3 games, we never put it all together. Never. The defense let 40-something points come through. The offense showed up, but the defense didn't really show up. Yeah, we won, but can you tell me that the defense showed up? If somebody scores 40-some points on you, would you concede that the defense showed up? I don't think so. I doubt that the defense showed up. So I'm encouraged that Colorado, I don't know that Colorado has really played Colorado football yet under the direction of Coach Prime. They haven't put it all together yet, and that's what gives me the courage, I would say. Let me see here. Give me a second, guys. So I don't know what's going on. Share is doing something weird. Share the screen. What's going on? What are you doing? Is it thinking? Anyway, this thing wants to think. So let me just go ahead and do it this way. Let's go ahead and upload it right on my face. That way it doesn't. Well, Liberian man would say, this thing is playing style. The computer or StreamYard wants to play style on me. But I have other ways. If you want to play style, let it play style. So I'll give you the Liberian. If you want to play style, my man, let it play style. But I came prepared. And hand right there on your screen, my people. If you want to play style, let it play style. All right, that's enough Liberian. So on your screen, there we go. The screen share, whatever thing is not working for StreamYard. So I'll just keep it right there and then move over just a little bit so I can be a little centered. Okay, there we go. So one thing I want you to know is that Colorado has the talent now. Colorado had the talent last year, never played up to the potential of the talent that was in-house. And then this year, 2024, the new recruit, the new class, I feel like they have the ability to be just as good as all of the teams that you see on this schedule. These teams are not unbeatable. I said that last year also. But these teams that you see here, all the way from North Dakota State to our last game, Oklahoma State, these teams are not beatable. That's why I think we said that the Big 12 is wide open. The Big 12 is wide open because what these teams, based on all of the things, all of the information that I've been pumping out in those videos, what I've seen is that these teams are really good football teams. That's it. There's no Oregon. There's no like 2023 Oregon on this list. All right, no 2023 Oregon on this list. And as far as the preseason rankings, there's going to be at least 4 or 5 teams that are ranked in the Big 12. But there are no unbeatable teams. Even the hottest team on this schedule, which would be, I would say, Arizona, who was just beating everybody. You put anybody in front of them, they would just beat them. Even them, they're not unbeatable. We played them very well. So I don't see anywhere or any team. I'm not just talking frivolous. I'm talking about the data. I'm talking about looking at the teams, looking at the information that's provided about each team. There's no team that is unbeatable like we had Oregon in 2023. And then some of the teams like the USCs that blew us out. I don't see a USC. I don't see an Oregon. And Utah is probably one of the most scariest teams that I hate to have to play, being Colorado. But when we played them, we were able to stake in the game. So they were not unbeatable. So what is it going to be for Colorado to either put W's on the scoreboard or at least be competitive? I really feel like we need to know who our DC is. I think Pat Shurmur is going to implement some type of NFL style scheme, because I think Shador is going to thrive in the NFL type schemes, because we gotta start basic football again. Basic football: run, pass, run more, pass a little bit more, run, pass, run, maybe pass. I know that's hard to say when you got somebody like Shador and Coach Prime who wants to, you know what I'm saying, make sure that his son gets the ball. It's going to be very hard, but if you want the ball in Shador's hands all the time, then I got to reevaluate everything that I think a lot of people are saying, because this is not no time for us to be passing the ball all the time. We got to run heavy in the Big 12. So it's important to say. What are you saying in the chat? Let me make sure I'm not ignoring what you're saying. Sorry, guys. Phil, I'll get to you in a second. Give me a moment. So yeah, you have to run the ball to open the pass game up. Purple Orca, you are 100% correct. I like 60 run, 40 pass. I think if we get 60 run, I'll put this on the record. If we get 60% run and 40% pass, Shador goes easy 5,000 yards a season. Easy. It's just because he's that accurate. The big bombs and the two brothers, the wide receiver, and I believe he was either a defensive lineman. I believe we have some really good talent in the house to make a push that most people are not expecting. This is the crazy part. If you watch that video about the I guess the records, the last video I just posted, Jack Harlow from the Buffalo's Wire is saying that or he's predicting that Colorado's going to be 10-2. The crazy thing is, even though my prediction is 8-4, I feel like Colorado can easily go 10-2 or 11-1. I just feel like they're going to botch a game. Okay, they're going to botch a game, but Colorado can be competitive in every single game in 2024. The talent is there. We need to know who the DC is. We have a little bit of a glimpse on who Pat Shermer is, but we don't know who the DC is. So we don't really understand what they're, who they are and what they're going to be able to do with the talent that we got now. But if you are a CU Buff fan, you should really understand that looking at this schedule right here, this schedule that you see right here, it's a schedule that Colorado can compete with and win. But the wins are not going to come with blowouts. That's another thing that I wanted to tell you guys. The wins are not going to be blowouts. They're going to be those manageable wins. And I'm just hoping that Coach Prime, if he listens to the show, like some of my guys have been saying, that Coach Prime listens to us. If Coach Prime listens to the show, I feel like, hey, Coach, hey, Prime, forget about the blowout situations that you like. Hold on, guys. I would say, hey, Prime, forget about the blowout situations that you like, the dominant thing that you want to do, because it's either going to work for you and you're really going to be dominant, or you're going to be chasing dominance while the other coaches are going to be chasing the W. And we saw that with the Arizona game. We also saw that with the Utah game. While you're trying to dominate, the other coaches are just trying to win the game. At the end of the day, the W means more than you dominating. So I guess it's sort of a message to Prime. Like, hey, Prime, like, Unc, let's talk. Forget about dominating and start winning. Like, hunker down, put together whatever you're going to do to just win the game. I think as a fan base, that's all we require. We know you're going to dominate once you're able to get your super teams. Right now, you don't have a super team. Right now, what you have are manageable pieces that needs coaching up to be able to take that next step. Now, we need to let's just curve our enthusiasm a little bit as far as, oh, let's go out, let's go dominate, just so because we have that bravado, we have that thing. This is a Prime thing. That's cool. But if in year 3, if we win now, year 3, we can have all of the players, the super players that you need to commit to Colorado because we're winning now, and then you can start dominating down the road. I know we came in trying to dominate and like, oh, okay, we're doing certain things because we want to dominate. You can really dominate football with passing, with like a lot of passing, where you're going 50 yards down the road, somebody catches it, you score fast, and you can really run up the score. But we saw in 2023 that strategy, it's risky. That strategy is very risky. So as a prescription, I'm like, what can we do to make sure that we put the W on, whether we win by a safety or whether we win by just 3 points? Boy, those W's, I feel like people are going to forgive you for not dominating if you're winning. That's just how I feel. Phil, what's up, man? How you doing today, brother?
All is well, man. What's going on?
All is well. I am excited for this schedule. There are a few hidden gems that we're going to be talking about, man, because I think Colorado has a great opportunity here in this schedule. What do you see? What are your initial thoughts when you see the schedule?
I think the schedule is fair. They only have one time they have two back to back home games. Everything else is home away, home away. Their buys come at a good time. This year everybody has two bye weeks because of Labor Day being a little bit earlier and some weird stuff like that. So I mean I think it's a manageable schedule. it is not out the question to say that they could go 5-0 to start the season. But I will
Mm-hmm.
say the last 4 games of the season will be like the test. So that's when that depth is really going to play a big factor.
Mm-hmm. East Coast Kev says, well, East Coast Kev, I want to thank you for the super chat. No comments, no opinions, just here to show love to you and the chat. Don't you? Doesn't it warm you up, man, when you get people that just support you, man? Just because 10-2 is not a prediction; it's a spoiler alert.
I like that.
Oh,
Hey, but listen, 10-2 is still good enough to win the conference. And honestly, I think that Oklahoma State game,
hmm,
that could be you might end up seeing Colorado play Oklahoma State 2 weeks in a row. I think
yeah,
if Colorado can get to 10-2, they're gonna play Oklahoma State in the uh
in
in the
that
Big
championship
12
game.
championship. I think it's a possibility for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about that specific thing. This is what I see, Phil. Colorado has enough pieces in the positions. If number one, they stay healthy, and number two, they stay out of trouble and not get kicked out of games to be competitive with all of these teams. I mean, it's just from what I'm seeing, this is how I look at it. All of these teams are really good teams. But guess what? Really good teams could be beat. They're not like super teams. You see what I'm saying? It's not like we're
Yeah.
playing a bunch of SEC teams. Like these are not super teams. These are like really good football focused programs. What do you think about that thought?
Yeah, I think everybody on the schedule, um, you have to respect. I mean, even looking at North Dakota State, you know, I think it's good that you start the season off with a team that is good enough to beat you, but you should win against. You know what I mean? And that's going to make sure those guys are focused. Then obviously going to Nebraska, then going against Colorado State, I think the guys are going to be locked in. But everybody on the schedule can beat Colorado. It's just a matter of, is Colorado going to go out there and get the job done? Are they going to have the pieces in place to get the job done and be consistent enough to get to that 10-2? Spoiler alert.
This is what I see. I think Coach Prime is going to have the coach's butt off this year. I think this is where if he's like that, this is where he proves it. Because what I'm seeing on this schedule, it's is like it's a coach's type of thing. I see, like I'm looking at the schedule, I'm looking at all of the teams, and I'm like, oh, this is coaching heavy. This is not a talent. This is not a talent conference. This is a coaches conference. And just from what I've been seeing over the data, just pouring over the data that I've seen recently, and just the research that I'm doing, I see this is a coaches league because the teams are, I would say, good, and Colorado has the pieces to be just as good as they are. But the I would say what's going to be the tip of the iceberg, or what's going to tip the scale over, I feel like it's going to be coaching, and we got to start looking at that. Let me bring DC on to join the herd. DC, welcome to the show, man. Thank you for calling. I appreciate you, man.
Man, what's going on, fellas? How y'all living?
All is well,
All
man.
is
Thank you for
well. All
calling
is
in, man.
well.
All is well. So,
All
so
right,
my
so let's
last
go ahead.
my last thought is, okay. Let me get your thoughts in first, and then I'll jump in with the question. Wild Dog, what's
Well,
up,
see,
man? Hope all is well. Hey, Wild Dog, if you free, Wild Dog, this will be the time for you to call because I'm about to go in. Anyways, go ahead.
yeah, see, I'm about to go in too. So I've been kind of slicing and dicing and looking at awesome videos you're doing, Harry, getting in the
Thank you, man.
reflection and stuff like that. This is the thing that puzzles me about CU fans, and this is you like Coach Prime, but there is a lot of unknowns. There is a lot of unknowns. You can call it whatever you want to. So at the end of the day, because you got a bunch of new players that are coming in, and yes, they're ranked, but that doesn't mean that you coach them up to be able to dominate or win the games because you still have to have that coaching. So we take a look at it. And I'm gonna say something that's a little controversial. So, but I'll deal with the
Oh,
smoke.
you just
So check
jumping
this
in with the
out.
controversy already, huh?
Oh yeah, let's do it. So let's look at this real quick. I believe Coach Prime will be an excellent coach.
Mm-hmm.
Staff, I have some questions about it because you do have some unproven staff and you don't have the DC. And you all know if you don't have the DC, you probably are not going to outscore those teams because you got teams that can run on you in the doggone Big 12. So
Mm-hmm.
let's unpack. People will say, well, Coach Prime, look what he did at Jackson State. Let's look what he did at Jackson State. Coach Prime only played SWAC schools except for one. It is easy to dominate in the SWAC. I've watched SWAC most of my life, more than most people that are in here, though some may be a little better. So let's take it out. He didn't play any. And if you look at the SWAC's record against other FCS teams and even outside the conference and for Division One, the that the records were horrible. They got Alabama State got blown out by UCLA and Alabama A&M. A lot of those schools got blown out by Auburn. All that good stuff. So now we get here. We don't know the DC. We've got some unproven things. Though I think they'll be better, but they do have talent. There's no question. So how can folks sit here and say it's gonna be 12-0, we're going to the playoffs when it's too many unknowns? That's a feeling because ain't
Hey
no
man,
facts in that.
stop watching the comments, man. Stop, get out of the comment section. Like, what are
I,
you talking about? Who's
I
saying 12 and
know.
0?
Well, I mean,
Ain't
I've seen like not just this one, but other places that are saying things, and so that's what I'm saying is that you can say it, and I have no problem with that. But now, when you start, like you say, look at the data is not known enough to make it. Because I'm gonna sit here and say this, and then yield. If folks feel this confident about it, go to Vegas and drop them dollars. If not, you got it but you won't because you already know the deal. I love to go place a bet on Shador. I think he will do a fantastic job. He's a great player. But I still think there's just too many unknown. And I'm shaking my head going, why are people saying 12-0 or this dominating playoffs? And even then, I want to know how far folks think they're going to go in the playoffs against teams like Bama or Georgia or Ole Miss and stuff. I yield.
Okay, so listen, I'll tell you this. What you're saying about the unknowns is actually less unknowns now than there are unknowns. Like, we have a lot of knowns, and that's why I took the time. I said, let me step back away from this live thing so that I can get into the data and see where this team is really at. And from my vantage point, and from what the data is showing right now, we really have a lot of knowns. But the biggest one that is unknown right now is obviously the DC. We don't know why it's taking so long to get a DC in-house. That's a big unknown. That's a little bit concerning for me. And I ain't gonna lie to you, it's concerning because, number one, I'm listening to a lot of experts. The experts that I'm listening to are writers. And I trust writers over anything. Writers, they have a certain, I would say, that you hold them accountable for on a different kind of level, because their integrity is hung upon their writing and their research and the things that they do. So there's a couple of writers, and I've also added what's the guy named Scott from the Coloradoan. I've added Scott to this bunch. These guys know what they're talking about because they follow the team so closely. And especially, we don't really know much about the Big 12 unless you are a person that watches the Big 12 and you know all of the different nuances and the intricacies of the Big 12. So I'm really leaning on these writers heavy because I feel like these guys can give me some type of insight that I can draw away from to make my final decisions on TLP, because I know all I needed was 1 year, and now I'm 1 year in. So now I'm like, okay, I know Colorado football now. Let's go with the extra stuff. Let me learn about the Big 12. And this is what I'm learning. Colorado has the potential to play any team, even a Georgia or an Alabama, and don't laugh, okay? I'm telling you, Colorado has the skill sets. They have the people in-house, okay, to be able to hang with any team. But the only thing is, and like you talk about, DC, is that unknown again, okay? It's like we don't know what the thing is. We don't know who's going to show up week after week. If Colorado could just, maybe I would say it was because they were dealing with the existential stuff from last season, and it was too much distraction from that standpoint. The coaching distractions, and look how many coaches we lost. Now, Phil, you can tell me because you are DC. You can tell me too. Y'all been following football for a long time, maybe college football for longer than me. So y'all tell me, how many teams lose 3 to 4 coaches from their staff? Let me hear from y'all. Before y'all answer, let me thank my guy, East Coast Calf. Natty coming to Boulder, Colorado. All you need is faith, the size of a mustard seed, and what, $50 on FanDuel. Oh, we
You
gonna
got that
listen.
sponsorship, huh?
We're gonna have to talk about what percentage is faith and what percentage is talent and skill. But yeah, but y'all, the I want to hear from y'all on the last thing I just said before we read this thing. Go ahead. If I need to remind you, I can remind y'all.
No, I can jump in on that. So I'll say this: like with college football, you do see turnover on a coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some coaching staffs can keep their guys together for a really long time. Jim Harbaugh was able to do a really good job with that. Kirby Smart has been able to do a good job with that. And now sometimes you will have a DC or OC leave, but if you're able to promote from within, that can also help with the cohesiveness of the team. If you look at Michigan, they promoted from within with their OC Sharon Moore taking over for Jim Harbaugh. So it's nothing new that you see coaching staffs leaves. It's a matter of who are you going to bring in and how are they going to fill that gap for what was left, and how different is your scheme going to be? Last point, you look at Nick Saban at Alabama. He was there for 17 years, right? He had a lot of different type of offensive coordinators. Even when he had Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian that did like to throw the ball around a lot more, they were still running the Bama offense. You rarely saw them have 4 wide receivers on the field at the same time. They always had 3 wide receivers and one tight end, and sometimes they would go out of 2 tight end formations. But they always ran that Nick Saban offense. Does Dion have a quote unquote Coach Prime offense that he wants his guys to run? Does he have a quote unquote
Yeah, it's throw the
Coach
ball.
Prime defense?
Put
Well,
the
I mean,
ball in
but
Shador's hands.
hey, but guess what though? Going into the Big 12 with them boys being able to run the ball and the clock always running in college football now, if Colorado gets into those 3 and out situations and their defense is going to have to be on the field for a long time, it may not bode well for them this year. So I think he's going to have to be a lot more balanced, to your point.
So yeah, I mean, that's a good thing that you bring up. Does Coach Prime have a signature office? I don't know that there's a Prime office. Who knows? I think Prime offense, and if the Prime's offense has always been put the ball in Shador's hands. That's been obvious. Put the ball in Shador's hands at Jackson State. I want the ball in Shador's hands in the first year with Colorado. But what happens when Shador leaves? Then what would be the Prime signature office? Put the ball in the quarterback's hand. Is it so? Are we talking about throwing the ball? Is it a throw heavy offense that he runs? Because he wants to dominate, and the way that you dominate in football is you run the score up. You run the score up by passing the ball. So is it? So we can
Can
we
I
can
can I give
argue
you
and
some
say
pushback on that point?
I'm saying we can argue and say that Coach Prime's signature offense would be air raid. Maybe.
You,
Go
I
ahead.
mean, you can say that. Yeah, it definitely is pass heavy, but I do want to say that running the score up doesn't always equate to dominating. Because if you go back and look at um, some of those Bama LSU matchups, like in 2000 teens, some of those scores were like 9-3, but you saw Alabama dominate LSU. If you look at the LSU versus Bama national championship game,
Mm-hmm.
I think the score was like 17-3. Bama didn't run the score up, but LSU did not get past the 50-yard line until the fourth quarter of the game. That's dominating right there. So we got to get away from focusing on the flash and scoring all these points, passing the ball, because again, I am very confident in saying this. Colorado would much rather have gone to a bowl game
Hmm.
or at the very least be hoisting up a trophy at the end of the season than worrying about throwing 400 yards a game because that ain't gonna
Yeah,
get you nowhere.
that's where
So
I'm at too. Go ahead, DC. You go
well,
ahead.
to Phil, so I'll give y'all a prime example. Yes, coaches change, but you got to understand when you look at some of those top 10, 15 programs, coaches generally, like for example, line coaches, you generally don't get brand new line coaches. You generally get coaches that have had experience and they come up. So that's the thing y'all got to factor in. But the thing is, when you talk about like to Phil's point, Phil, we both can sit there and have seen Saban mouth because you can't hear it to Lane Kiffin, but he mouthed the Lane Kiffin one game, run the effing ball. Remember, they were throwing it, and he turned to Lane Kiffin and just said, "What are you doing? Run the effing ball," because they had already, I forget which game it was, and that's the reality of it. So, like, I'll get, and it's something I want to say. Okay, I I want to make sure I'm saying this. To get the point across. I
Take
definitely
your time.
believe I definitely believe that Colorado will be competitive. I've never said they won't. You've never heard me say they're gonna do the same thing as they did last year. What I'm saying is when you get into the dominate, when you get into the upper echelons, because it's hard to get past 7 games. That's not easy. That takes some ball bouncing the right way. That takes scheme. That takes that you have to be able to outcoach the coach across the field. We can look back last year, and I get that they didn't have the players. But you also have to realize, like some people say, well, we only lost a game by one score. You realize some of those games were lost because of bad clock management, not knowing necessarily where you really were on the field, like giving the ball back to, I forget was that not Washington. I forget which team it was, Oregon State or something, where like it was like almost at the end of the second quarter, about to go into the half,
Was that
and
Arizona? I think that
yeah,
might have been
I think it
Arizona.
was right, right. And they threw 3 passes, and it was kind of like the wisdom, conventional wisdom was to take a knee. So again, I know Prime would take some chances. Coach Sanders would take some chances, but also you got to realize that that'll bite you in the butt. So that's kind of what I'm sitting here saying is that yeah, they have better talent. That is absolutely true. But go ask Texas A&M what better talent will happen to that coach, even though they had better talent. Go ask them. That'll tell you something. It's not, and understand Jimbo Fisher had won a national championship. So it's not always about talent. It's about putting it all together. And again, he got fired for having a 7-win season. So that's what I'm
So
saying is
that's what that's why I'm like, you know what? That's why I've realized, and I think I just came to that realization just when I was saying it, that this is a coach like the Big 12. I think in 2024, the Big 12 is a coaching conference this year because I think when they had Texas, and they had who else did they have? Was somebody else left? Who else left?
Oklahoma.
Uh,
Oklahoma left. Both of them are going to
Oklahoma,
the
right?
SEC.
I think if you have like those two teams and they're so dominant, then the dominant teams leave, and now you got the rest of the guys who kind of like say, okay, I want to be the dominant force, but I don't have either a Nick Saban type coach or I don't have a front line or like a Shador or something. I don't see no elite over the top talent from everything that I'm putting out, guys. Okay, I haven't seen any dominant like front that says, "Oh, this team is so dominant." Like if you got people like Jack Carlo, a writer, saying Colorado's going to go 10-2, this thing is wide open. Somebody would have said by now, "There's no way they're beating X, Y, and Z teams. There's no way we like they put Arizona in." As one of the teams that we definitely going to beat, but Arizona had a unicorn season. They had some type of I don't know what happened. It was almost reminiscence of TCU in 2022. Is that accurate to say? And then what happened
I
to
don't.
TCU?
TCU TCU never should have been in the national championship game uh,
Forget about that. What
last year
what
to
about all
begin
of the
with.
other games that they won? Let's leave the Georgia thing alone for a second, right?
No, no, no,
And
no.
say
But my
how
point
did they
is
win out like that?
they were never good enough to be there in the first place. So I think because they made it to the national championship, people put them on a higher pedestal than they should have been on. Now that's not to say they weren't a good team, but they were not one of the four best teams the previous season. But
No, I
I
get it.
want to say this
But this
about
is
I
what
want
I'm
to say this
saying.
about. Mhm.
You look at Max Duggan, their quarterback, but Max Duggan was not even the starter. Chandler Morris was like what's the starter until he got hurt in that CU game, and
Mhm.
then Max Duggan came in to replace him, and then they realized that Max Duggan was a unicorn, but he went to the NFL, and I don't even know if he found a team yet in the NFL.
But you know
So
what, Harry? Harry, I will tell you.
go ahead,
This is
take
what
the
I'll
mic.
say. There is several. There are three coaches that most coaches will tell you that you never knew what they were going to do, and they will out scheme you and they'll outmaneuver you. And when I say it, Phil gonna be like, "You right." One of them is Mike Gundy. You never know. Well, now one of them, he's deceased now, was Mike Leach. Folks did not want to
Yeah.
face him because they did not know what he was going to do. Another one is Mike Gundy, who was the coach at Oklahoma State. You know who the other one is? Gus Malzahn at UCF. So that's the thing about it, is that you got some coaches in there, and you got to think about it. That Malzahn has been on a championship team. Malzahn took
Mhm.
UCF. Remember they had that great season. They claiming that fake national championship season, but they still were good. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get folks to take a look at and see those things. Of you can't just look at it. Colorado's going to be good. Nobody's dissing that at all. But when you start saying I'm going to go a 15-0 season or somewhere around that, and get all the way to the Natty, which love my man East Coast Kev, but I'm still kind of sitting there saying, how does Colorado have the depth to be able to go through? Because I mean, think about it, it's going to be the first
I
year where
can't
you're
speak
going
on that,
15
DC. I'm
games.
telling you, yes,
Yes,
DC. I can. I'm telling you, like now that I've taken the time to step back to really start looking at the Big 12, it's plausible, and I'll tell you why it is. It's it, it is and it's not, because at the end of the day, what you're saying is accurate. We need to see how Coach Prime coaches when he really just got a coach, because I think, just to speak to the constituents out there, the people that's out there, this is the year that if Coach Prime is like that as a coach, not the NFL prodigy, not that guy, the coach, the actual coach, the X's and O's coach, who puts on that helmet as the lead coach, the head coach, he got to coach his butt off this year. And if he does that, and if he can match the energy from all of these coaches, Colorado has the talent to make this thing happen. I, I don't know how else to say it, but I feel like Colorado is primed to, pun intended, right? Colorado is primed to actually do the dang thing. I'm telling you.
So Harry, there's a saying that says players win games and coaches lose them, and I think that is going to go to your point. If Colorado, is going to be successful, it's going to be on their players, and if they fail and this don't look right, it's going to be on that coaching staff, and the buck is going to start with Dion. Point blank. Period.
right. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they don't have the talent. That's not true. And folks, I know that some of y'all are not saying they're going 12-0 and stuff like that. And again, I've been messing with East Coast Kev. That's my dude right there all day long.
East Coast Cavs is on
But
that mustard seed fade right now, bro.
yeah, and I get why he's saying it. So that's fine. I mean, I don't have an issue if that's your team. I mean, me liking Bama, I want Bama to go undefeated, but I know more than likely they're not going to go undefeated. I saw that this year they just were not as a complete team, as they could have been, though they were a very competitive team. They were a good team. But what I'm saying is that I believe they have the talent. The thing comes in putting it all together. That's the
That's
thing
where,
about it.
and that's where you and I can kind of like talk about the nuances of putting it together. That's where I'm at with it. But I don't feel like Colorado doesn't have talent and they can't go the distance. But I just feel like who's going to show up? Which Coach Prime is going to show up? Which offense is going to show up? Can the offense and the defense show up at the same time, in the same day, at the same hour? Can they ride the same bus? Can they be on the same plane together? Can they be on the same wavelength? I feel like if Coach Prime shows up, the real coach shows up, the defense and the offense shows up, I don't know any team in the Big 12, and I'll tell you guys why I'm saying this, Buff fans. I'm speaking from a place of studying. I'm speaking from a place of data. I don't see any reason why Deion Sanders' Colorado Buffs cannot win as many games as they can compete for. And I'm only saying that because it's in the data. If you hear me say 4 and 8-4, or we're missing this and we're missing that, it's because I know that other teams have them. There's a lot more completed teams in the Big 12 than there are not. Just so I can make that clear, there's a lot more complete football teams. And when I'm saying, let's call them blue-collar football teams. These are your run-of-the-mill, middle of America. All we got is football. We eat grits and eggs on every day or whatever. We wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots, and we talk in a slur. Those type of teams where they're just going to coach the crap out of you, and they're going to run the ball in your mouth, and all they care about is beating you by, I don't care how many points, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, they will beat you because they just play smash nose regular football. That's not Coach Prime, and that's what fears me the most. And that's why I'm like, I don't know if Coach Prime is still on this wave. I want to dominate, so let me just throw the ball forever.
Exactly.
But when you start using those terms, though, when you start saying I'm gonna dominate, well, now you done gave a motivator to a team and say, no, they're not gonna come out here and shine on us. We're gonna make sure of that. But the thing I want to say is that when you look at the data, and I agree with everything you're saying, Harry, the thing is, and again, having watched Bama for years, I'm gonna sit here and tell you is that yes, CU has the talent, and I believe CU has some good coaches. But guess what? The data ain't gonna tell you the discipline. You know why Bama lost a lot? It was not very good last year, the season before, the 22 season. A lot of penalties. They kept backing themselves up. You can sit back and look at this game. You know, a part of that last play didn't work because the center had been having snap issues all year long. He had it against Texas. If y'all remember, he had it against some key games. That matter of fact, even one of those things where the Iron Bowl. He snapped the ball. So those are things that, like, when people are sitting here saying that, yeah, we're gonna dominate, yeah, we're gonna do. You got to look at that stuff and say, here was a team that is like consistently ranked 1 or 2. They swapped between there and Georgia for decades, and those things like that cost them. So that's kind of what I'm sitting there saying is that.
Keep thinking that Nick Saban retired.
Well, part of that also.
Keep thinking he retired.
Well, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, is one of the things, which is the elephant in the room that we'll eventually talk about another time, is that, if you're going to do the portal thing, and now everybody's like, because think about it, Colorado was number 1 in the portal. Where they at now? Because them schools like, okay, it's all open. So now it's going to be to a point where who has the most money? I'm not going to get it because everybody, apparently Colorado has like $50 quadrillion out there to just give to everybody. But the thing I'm saying is,
wait, was that sarcasm?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm just kidding. They got money, but it's to a point that, like, for example, when have you ever seen a team other than TCU Cinderella season? Now, if you were going off the Colorado's going to.
Wild Dog, you ready? Get ready. I'm about to bring you on, brother.
All right.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say this. If we're saying that we expect Colorado to have a Cinderella-like season where that means there's some magic that has to happen, I have no argument against that. That's what somebody's saying.
Forget about that Cinderella talk. I'm not even thinking Cinderella. I'm telling you now that Deion Sanders, and I'm saying that for a reason, Deion Sanders has to show up. I don't want to see Coach Prime. I feel like Deion Sanders has to show up because it's important that Deion Sanders shows up. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let me bring on Wild Dog. He's been waiting in the green room. Wild Dog, welcome to the show, man. It's been a while. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you.
Oh, blessings, Harry B. Blessings, bandwagon bus. It's good to
So
It's good to be here.
we're jumping right into it, and Colorado has and Phil and DC. I'm going to cover your face because my share screen is not working, so I definitely have to cover your face with my on-screen overlay to put this schedule up because I need to get Wild Dog on this conversation in the right way. We have what we didn't have last year. We have leverage in this schedule. We have um, the type of leverage that gives us the room to get our wings, flopping a little bit because of the home games, right? We're not playing too many of the Texas Tech, the Kansas. We're not playing too many of the so-called big teams away at their home, so we can flop our wings a little bit, grow a little bit of, grow a set before we have to meet some of these teams, and then we're meeting them at home. So my narrative tonight and leading in, which I just learned tonight, is that Coach Prime has going to. I've been saying that some of these players are going to have breakout years, but I'm changing that now to say Coach Prime better have a breakout year, or we're going to have a problem. I think now Coach Prime has to have a breakout year. Your thoughts, please.
Yes, I believe Coach Prime, with his mentors and his self-examination, realizes that he has more to give and that he absolutely has to pay more attention to details. And that though you can have trust, like anything else, there's levels to it. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So he can trust his coaches, yet he has to be more directly involved, right? And then with this year coming, I think he's going to have, better relationships with the existing staff, which is ongoing, right? And then with the new staff he's coming in, right? So, there was unknowns. Even with dealing with relationships, there was serious unknowns, like the OC we're not going to mention, So I think moving forward, a year behind your belt, better relationship with your existing staff, and then more direct decision-making and selection and relationship with the staff you have new, including Shermer, and the DC coming in. Those relationships are different than what he had coming in to the season last year. It just is what it is. So that's all going to be leveled up. And with his self-examination and his mentors, and not just knowing he needs to cross his I's and dot his T's, but the, how should I say it, the process, the actual actions and the process of what that looks like. He's laying that out for himself, right? Key factors and key things he'll be looking for and anticipating when he's going to interject, interact, and how that's going to function and look like for himself. So even playing back in different scenarios, when I was in this situation this past year, what would I do differently moving forward into this coming year? Those have been a deliberate examination and processes that he and his mentors have gone through. So that's dealing with Coach Prime. Yes, sir.
Okay, so key games that we have at home. These are some of the surprises. All right. Now, let's see here. All right. So we have Arizona at home. Okay. Which is not bad because I've never, even going into the 2023 season, I had us beating Arizona.
I want to correct you real quick. On the schedule, what's in gold are the home games and what's in black are the road games. I just want to make sure you're giving your fans accurate information there. The gold is home games and the black are the road games. Right. So Arizona will be a road game, as well as Kansas, and that game will actually be played in Arrowhead Stadium where the Kansas City Chiefs play. So that's going to be big for those guys to get a chance to play in the NFL stadium.
Yep, and it also says at. So if you see at on there, guys, that's, I guess if you just want to go by the colors, that's fine. That'll be easier for you to follow. But so this year we're gonna have Utah at home. Oklahoma State is gonna be at home. I'm just talking about the tough games. All right, Kansas State at home. Now, I know North Dakota State is a sleeping giant. I get it, but I'm not looking at them as a Kansas State game or even a Oklahoma State game. So the Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, those games, them being at home, those are advantage Coach Prime and his team, Colorado. So keep in mind now we're playing Nebraska, North Dakota State, CSU, and then Baylor. Baylor probably being the worst out of all of those teams. We have an opportunity for 1, 2, 3, count the first 5 teams. We have an opportunity to go 5-0. And I'm telling you, 5-0. Like just to start the season, before we start playing teams that will remind you of a UCLA, I don't see no Oregon teams, but teams that will remind you of the teams that really gave us a problem. We have an opportunity to go 5-0. Before, and imagine going 5-0 and having that kind of momentum going into the tougher games. And I say tougher, but not impossible games. Tougher, but not impossible games. Games that Coach Prime is going to have to coach his butt off. This is where this is where I start worrying, because those coaches that he's going to be coaching against, they are blue collar coaches. No fanfare, no flash. I want to win. I want to beat you. And one more thing I want to say, just in case you're watching the live today and you didn't watch the videos. Almost all of these coaches are on the hot seat to lose their job next year. Almost all of the coaches on the coach off are on the hot seat to lose their job. Like almost all of them. I'm looking at the data and I'm like, what the heck did I just step into? Maybe a handful of coaches in the Big 12 that are not on the hot seat to lose their job.
What's your definition of hot seat?
What you say?
I was asking, what is your definition of hot seat?
You better win or you're going home. That's it. They gotta win.
I'll say that some of these coaches may not have had a dominant season last year, but I think I don't, even with Baylor being as bad as they were, I think Dave Aranda is going to be there for a while. I think he can turn it around for Baylor. That's probably going to be the worst team on the schedule this year. I just want to be careful with saying on the hot seat, because I agree with it, but we don't have to harp on that.
Their job is literally on the line, and this is not coming from me. Their jobs are on the line. These guys, their constituents, their fan base, they're not used to losing. They're not used to getting beat by subpar teams. So these coaches, the way that they've been putting up, and I mean, some of them got saved. Like Arizona's coach is safe for now, but he was on the hot seat. If
Arizona got a new head coach,
huh?
Arizona has a new head coach, Jed Fish, that was the Arizona coach this previous season. Yeah, he went to Washington. He's at Washington now. So now San Jose State coach Brent Brennan is the new coach at Arizona. And he was able to keep their starting quarterback as well as their starting wide receiver. Right. So a lot of guys stayed. Yeah.
But the majority
and Arizona won their bowl game.
Exactly.
So I mean, when Harry's saying these coaches are on the hot seat, you get to a bowl game, you win a bowl game, and you're still out. Because it's as much about who's available as it is about your performance.
East Coast Cav is coming in with another blessing. Thank you so much for the 2 Corinthians 5:7 for we walk by faith, not by sight. So listen, that's the other side of the coin. All right. So we understand. All right. We understand that's the other side of the coin. Now, if two teams are praying and are having faith, then who does God tip the skill towards, right?
He don't care.
That's not, exactly, right?
Works. Faith
Come
without
on,
works is mute.
Harry. No,
Faith
y'all
without
wrong.
works is mute. Faith without
By the
works
way,
is mute.
right.
The only
By the way,
no,
good to see you.
DC, hold on. The only
Okay.
reason why I said it like that is because if you got a fan base that leans so heavily in saying, "Hey man, all we got to do is just have faith," and you're not discussing and looking at the data, then you might be in for a rude awakening. Let that
No,
sink in.
Harry.
Go
No,
ahead, DC.
Harry. See, well, first, welcome back, Wild Dog. We're missing you because you always bring some fire points, having played ball and stuff. I learned from you, so welcome back, brother. As far as that, now, Harry, now you know good and well that when teams pray, Prime's prayer goes to the front of the list, and everybody else goes. So what are you
You know,
talking about?
if you
You
don't
know good
stop it
and
right
well.
now,
You know good and well that field is anointed with oil, and everybody is walking around there casting out those
no,
demonic refs from the
the
Utah game in the name
last
of
thing.
Jesus. But the point being is that yeah, I see it too, and that's kind of what sometimes I'll say so because I understand we got people that are faith based in this, we got culture based, we got a mixture of that and stuff like that. So that's a lot of times when folks that kind of do the hater thing is because they are a mixture of that. But here's the thing I say. Colorado could start off 5-0, but they can also start off 1-4. They could get the absolute crap beat out of them and some bruising going on in Nebraska. You could actually see where they could, North Dakota State won't be easy. So those games, they're like, to me, and I'm curious what Wild Dog has to say, is that they can be, kind of like those games where you think we should go in and just dominate like last year and not so. I think Nebraska, you're gonna be fresh, and Nebraska's gonna be fresh, and that's going to be a rivalry game. Then you go into another rivalry game where you could say we're going to dominate Colorado State, but again, have been seen plenty of Alabama and Auburn games. They don't always go that way. And then sometimes you might look good on the scoreboard, but your body takes a complete beating. So then when so I could see the Cincinnati as a, hey, you want to do that. But again, and I have to look at it is that, when they say like, don't touch two, DT2, you're right. Because if you start getting into game 3 or 4 and Shador is still getting beat up, because that's your ball, unless we see something else. I'm curious to see what the backups look like. But unless that the backups are I don't know if they'll be Shador-esque, but they should be good. Ryan Staub's just still be there. So hopefully we'll see where the QB basically the strings line up. But that's what I'm saying is that I do think they'll be better. But I also see where they could start off and just clean everybody's clock, or could start off being 1-4.
Waldo, you want to answer, or should I go in real quick?
You can go ahead.
So listen. This is what I'm saying, DC. the at the end of the day, I think the Big 12 has good enough teams that we can beat each other on any given Saturday. The Big 12 is very it's not like the Pac-12 where it was like you can tell the talent that was going to beat you. It's not like that. So I'm speaking to I really want the fan base, especially if you're watching after this video has been posted after the live. I want the fan base to take something away tonight. And I'm talking like it's on Friday. Like this is how I'm usually hyped like this on Fridays, but I want to get this out. If you are a fan and you don't really know what's going on and you're just hoping and just wishing because you see so much going on all these different channels, I can't really count how many Coach Prime channels there are right now. We're almost topping off, okay? But there's one thing I want you to take away. And trust me when I tell you this, because I'm very humble and I'm doing my job for the fan base to understand really what we are going against. What we're going against are going to be really good teams this year. They're not going to be necessarily really over the top teams with heavy quarterback play, because regardless of what anybody else tells you, fan base, the Pac-12 last year had some of the most elite quarterback play, or at least the elite quarterbacks, were all in the Pac-12. So we're not facing that this year. Please take that away. That's one thing. In the Big 12, we're going to have the number one quarterback in the Big 12. Like, hands down, not even competitive. We're going to have the big, and Phil, hold your horses. Okay? We're going to have, hands down, the best quarterback in the Big 12. And then there's three other things. Our wide receivers room is going to be one of the best. If it's going to be ranked at least top 2 or top 3 in the Big 12, our wide receivers room. I can argue that it's going to be 1 or 2. Like, we're going to be number 1 or number 2 in the Big 12. That's another thing. And then our running backs room is going to be ranked. I'm telling you, because this is a run conference. So we're going to have, I'm going to leave it at, we're going to have a very competitive running backs room. We're probably not going to have the best running backs room, but our running backs room is going to be very competitive, and that's all we need them to be, because we're not a running team. We're a passing team. So we don't need to have 2,700 yard running backs like some of the people do in the Big 12. We don't have to have that. We just need them to be able to get positive yardage when we need a third down or on a first down to keep the ball moving, to give Shador at least 2 options, 2 times to pass the ball. So what DC is saying is more cautious, and it's not as bullish for Colorado, but I think this year we stand a really good chance if everybody shows up to play on Saturday. We stand a really good chance for you to be so excited to just sit back and relax and enjoy Colorado football. I'll yield to Wild Dog.
So, I mean, the second thing I had written down is health, right?
Okay.
When it comes, well, let me backtrack. Let me back up one moment. Like, what I hear you saying, Harry, and if I can express it in a way, OU and Texas are gone from the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
So basically that creates a situation of parity. Like you're saying, there's no big dog programs that are just the bullies are gone, right?
All gone. Yep.
So the word parity, whether you know football or not, should ring bells with you, right? So all the teams, there's no huge cavern between the best team in the Big 12 and the worst team. And between the good teams and the better teams, it shrinks even shorter. So between, the difference between, Baylor and Arizona, but then if you look at, your mid-grade teams, your Kansas State and so forth, and your Arizona's, your Kansas, it's a matter of who gets the ball last, who shows up, and probably who gets the ball last as to who wins the game. So this is best described as parity, to give clarification for everyone. But the second thing I've written down is health. One of the major issues we had last year was like, oh, we got talent, but where's the depth? And we get banged up, quarterback, line, everywhere. We get banged up. We lost guys, and it showed up.
Savion Washington. Washington was like one of the biggest pieces that we were looking forward to on that line.
I mean, technically, we lost all of our stars in one way or another, whether you look at it or not. I mean, Shador grinded it out because he's a beast, but he shouldn't have had to do that. And then, it is what it is. But coming into this year, we're seeing upgrades, but we're also seeing depth, right? So there's going to be a rotation. It's like, oh, why are they pulling that guy out? Why is he on the field? It's like they expect a rotation, right? And if somebody goes down, there's depth for the next man up, and not just not a body, right? It's going to be someone who's efficient and who can perform. So the depth is going to be there. But again, I've said it before, 3-0 this coming season would be totally different than the 3-0 from last year, right? So rivalry games like DC was hitting at, all bets are off. If you want to lose money, bet on rivalry games because, it's a whole different animal. It's a whole different level of performance, a whole different level of energy, a whole different level of emotion when you're playing against, historic dead-on rivalry. So that second and third game going against Nebraska in Nebraska, going against CSU up in Fort Collins, that's different. That's going to be a whole different situation. And then part of me, if y'all can forgive me, part of me almost feels like one of the best things that could happen for the team going into the season is to get punched in the mouth that first game. Because
you're saying we should lose that first game to help us out,
or it should be scary. I'm not saying necessarily lose it, but they're a team that's very well capable of punching you in the mouth, any team in the mouth, and a punch in the mouth could very well hone the team together. Okay, there's no rust, but whatever you want to call, the last gelling factor or phase or the last of whatever. That first game is not just a regular preseason game. That's a punch in the mouth waiting to happen. And every time I look at it, it almost just keeps saying like the best thing that might happen to CU is to get punched in the mouth, right? And that'll solidify, shaping the stone, harden the steel, to then push in through the season. Having an easy go at the Bisons may look good and all the fluff, but they're capable of punching us in the mouth, and I'm hoping they bring it. Win or lose, I'm hoping they bring their best game so then it can help propel us through this schedule. So because we're not going to come out of we are not going to come out of the CSU game healthy. So we're going to need everyone on board, right? We're going to need everyone on board, everyone gelling, everyone ready to play because we're not going to come out of Nebraska and the CSU game 100% healthy. That's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. So going into the Baylor game, that's a whole other setup for – I don't even want to say it. That's a whole other setup for Stanford.
All right, let's let Phil jump in here real quick. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, so I got a couple of things that I have written down, and I'll try to go over those quickly. You mentioned, how you don't see until later on in the season, or you don't see any games at all where they're going to look like, your Oregons or your USC or your UCLA games. I think we're going to have to get used to Colorado playing games that look like the Arizona game or the Oregon State game, because those teams, and I don't mean the outcome, I just mean the teams that Colorado will be going against will be more similar to your Oregon State and your Arizonas than they would your Oregons or your Washington States.
Right.
So,
but those teams they come to play.
No. Again, I'm just talking about playing style. I'm not talking about talent. I'm simply talking about playing style. So the game on the field will look more like those games, and it's going to come down to, can the defense stop the run, and can Colorado still give themselves a chance to run the ball to let Shador have a little bit more time in the pocket when he does drop back? And another point I wanted to make is I like what Wild Dog is saying about kind of getting punched in the mouth to start the season off. I don't think that they need to lose necessarily, but I do think that a 3-0 start this year is going to have a different type of excitement than it did last year, because coming in, you had TCU, they were in the national championship game. Colorado was Colorado was unknown. They go in a hard fought battle, they win. Then go to Boulder, have the rivalry game against Nebraska. Oh man, now people really believe it. What's going on? Then you have the drama going on. The week leading up to the Colorado State game, they barely squeak it out and win. I think this year that 3-0 start, I think more people are expecting that. So there'll still be some excitement, but I don't think people are going to people aren't going to be sleeping on Colorado this year. So if they get that 3-0, that 4-0, that 5-0 start this year, they're going to earn it, and they're going to go out and play against guys that are really trying to go out there and not get embarrassed by Colorado.
So it's hard to put words to how I'm feeling like right now, You see what I'm saying? Because I feel like Coach Prime has he has everything there, but he's only missing a few depth pieces. If we can, let's just say, bolster the, I don't want to give all my information away, but anyways, I'll just give you some stuff. If we can bolster the tight ends room, if we can get a couple of depth players from the, I would say maybe a couple of tackles position, just depth pieces. I'm not talking about like give me a name or a 4 or 5 star. I'm talking about a dog, somebody who wants to prove something. Give me a guy that just wants to smack somebody in the mouth. Just a few pieces in key positions, because right now what I see if you put the lineup, I see one for each room. You see what I'm saying? Like I see a star for each room, but I don't see who's his backup that's going to step in if he goes down. I'm not seeing a lot of DEPTH in other positions, like when you look at the wide receivers room, like when you look at the running backs room. You know what I'm saying? We don't really have that much depth in we don't have that much depth in the quarterbacks, because we don't know if Ryan Stubb is going to play like Ryan Stubb played, if he has to step up. But if Shador stays healthy, we don't have to worry about that. But that's a big if, because
Harry.
we're hoping that the line that's coming in, and everybody's saying, everybody's going crazy about this line. We're hoping that they'll do their job, but that's about it. We're just hoping. It's hoping. It's not, oh, it's guaranteed they're going to stop people. We're hoping. If they don't stop anybody, it's going to be the same conversation again. Shador's going to be running for his life again. Go ahead, DC.
Well, you make a good point. You know, another thing is Deion has to balance this year, and I'm absolutely curious what Wild Dog had to say this year, is that how does he, because think about it, people didn't transfer in to be second string. They just, the portal, they didn't transfer in just to kind of sit back and say, okay, I'll sit back here and be second or third fiddle until I can get on the field.
Especially those 1 year guys.
Exactly. So you're looking at balancing the, you know, because you're not just playing, you're also trying to make sure you keep what you have. And then you want to make sure you get the experience for the people to be able to roll out for that next season. So he's got a lot of stuff going on. I will tell you something that has impressed me about Coach Sanders lately is, like, if y'all notice, his tone has changed a little bit. He's a lot more concise, and it's almost like he turned the energy is there, but it's in a different way. You know, and it's kind of like
more introspective.
Yes, it is. It's almost like I'm way more measured. Like, you know, I wanted to get out there and kind of, because that's something I always thought at the beginning. How does it go from being Prime when Prime just has to make sure Prime is good to now have to lead an organization? There are some ways, you know, he said that I can't say certain things. I mean, now I know he's saying, hey, I'm not gonna keep my mouth closed, but I do kind of see him kind of being a little restrained, which is a good thing. But again, to balance all that, because again, like, you know, if they get up, you can't keep Shador in there forever. You're gonna have to give your backup some reps. You're gonna have to give other people reps. You're gonna have to get there, especially if you're saying, like some people, that they plan on doing a run in the playoffs. You got to keep folks healthy. So when you get up, do you have the depth that can maintain, and like, can you run the ball and have a defense that can maintain so that you can get some of your starters some rest and then live to fight another day?
And that's now, this is the point where, let me tell you guys why I say I need Deion Sanders to show up. I need Coach Sanders to show up, because I think a lot of people don't understand who Prime is. A lot of people forget why Prime was created. Prime is the marketing money machine. Prime is the entertainer. Prime is not the quiet football guy. Prime is not the Prime was not. Let me say this. Let me look at the camera while I tell you guys this. I'm getting excited. Sorry. Prime was not selected for the NFL. Deion Sanders was. Okay? The football, the X's and O's, Deion Sanders was accepted for the NFL. Deion Sanders is the one that has that has the abilities to play and really understand the game. He's a world-class athlete. That's Deion Sanders. Prime is the guy that makes the money for Deion Sanders so that he can live the lavish life that he wants to live. That's Prime. I don't want Coach Prime. And I'll say that again. I want you to understand this. I don't want Coach Prime to show up anywhere on the field this year. I want the football acumen, the football guy, Deion Sanders, to show up. I want Coach Sanders to show up. I don't want Coach Prime to show up. I want Coach Sanders to show up because Coach Sanders knows football. Prime knows money. Prime knows how to entertain. He knows how to put on a show. He knows how to do all of the big showy things that makes you feel like, oh my gosh, this is exciting to watch. I don't want that guy to be on the sideline. I want Deion Sanders to show up and coach. Because if he does, then he would not be so flashy and trying to dominate. He will try to manage the game as much as he can to put a W on the board. Because we need W's right now. I'm looking at year 3. I'm forgetting about year 2. In order for us to be successful at recruiting for year number 3, we got to win in year number 2. Year number 2, we put up more W's, a lot more W's, and like go like 8-4 or maybe like a 9-3 or something like that. I guarantee you guys, the type of recruit that really wants to come to Colorado, but they are as afraid, they're a little bit hesitant, that's going to lift the veil off. And for that, we need Coach Sanders to show up, not Prime. I don't want Prime anywhere near the field in 2024. That's just my thoughts.
It sounds like you're saying it's similar to a lady in the street, but a freak in the sheets. You know what I'm saying? You want your businessman off the field, but you want your head coach on the field. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm not going to, according to the ladies in the streets, not that. I wouldn't go there with it, but I want the coach to show up because I know that Deion Sanders is a really brilliant football mind. Prime is a brilliant marketing machine that knows how to put butts in the seats, and he understands. But I feel like Prime should leave after the game starts. Okay? We need Prime to show up to put the butts and to sell the tickets, but Prime, get off the field. I need Prime to leave. Go watch the game in the booth. I need Deion Sanders to stay and to really hunker down and start managing football games and stop thinking like Prime to try to dominate. Because this is not about FBS football is not about dominating. It's about putting W's on the board so that your fan base can have something to hang their head on. Now, if you want to dominate, then let Deion do a lot of the heavy lifting and let Prime do a little bit. But it got to be a like an 80 to like 20 top Deion 80, Prime 20%. Forget about that flashy stuff. I'm ready for some real Colorado football. If you remember the 90s, I was not even a college football fan, and I remember Colorado football. Smash mouth. We had an identity. This is who we were. If you step to us, we're going to punch you in the mouth type of Colorado football. I want that football to be our identity in 2024, but not that flashy stuff that Coach Prime wants to do, throwing the ball 90% of the time. I'm over that. I'm ready to win. Why are you laughing over there, bro?
Do you think Deion can separate the two though? Do you think that
No.
Prime has merged too much into Deion and now he's become a character of himself? Do you think he can actually separate Deion and Prime?
Harry, let me go in on that. Take a break. Let me go in on it. Like,
go on, please.
Like DC was hinting at, if you look at the nuances of it, and like you hinted, Harry, there is a balance to it within yourself. Like there's days it's like, yeah, I'm wild dog. I'm always on. But then there's times where, I'm Chaplain Randy, right? And there's other times, the other parts of my personality that come out. So I think what we saw last year was an imbalance. And that's why it was easy for Mr. Sanders to recognize it, his mentors to call it out, and for Mr. Sanders to recognize it. And it's not, and I don't want to see a Coach Sanders next year. What I want to see is Mr. Sanders like someone you would go to have do your taxes. This is a mad scientist. This is someone who's possessed and given their whole life to the game. We want to see Mr. Sanders. Let Coach Prime be Coach Prime and do his thing, but Mr. Sanders should definitely be expected to come through. And I don't want to say to what degree, but it should really be it should be efficient and effective on the field. We want to see Mr. Sanders. That's what we want to see.
Why are you saying Mr. Sanders as opposed to Coach Prime or Coach Sanders? Because I feel like if we're going to get Mr. Sanders, is Mr. Sanders showing up as a coach, or what's happening with Mr. Sanders? I don't want him to do my taxes. I want him to manage my game.
I'm just trying to express to you as best I can. I met Mr. Sanders, I believe it was 2003, 2004. And
Have you met Coach Sanders?
And what might have been a 5-minute conversation, and I could tell you that it wasn't. It was away from his family. It was away from any other personalities. It was at least a good solid 5 minutes. And I met Mr. Sanders. And we didn't talk football. We talked baseball. Because I grew up playing baseball and I'm still a huge baseball fan. You want Mr. Sanders. You want Mr. Sanders, who sees things that other people don't see. When you look at the data, right, people take it off cuff, and he sees and moves with it in a different way that only someone who's a maniacal mad scientist, baseball fan can.
Right.
Where all the other sports were just catching up to what baseball has been doing for over 100 years. It just is what it is. So I'm giving you a different expression. What we want to see is BWB. We want to see Mr. Sanders show up on the football field.
And I'll tell you something.
A mad scientist, a mad methodical scientist who sees and accepts things that nobody else sees, and that's why he has a gold jacket. That prime time flashes around. I got a gold jacket that I didn't buy. Right?
No, I think people underestimate that it was not Prime with the gold jacket. It's Deion Sanders who has the gold jacket. Prime is the one that got the money to make all of that happen. But I know we're sounding crazy right now, but DC, did you want to say something?
Right, I did. And see, that's the thing, that not all, but there's a portion of the culture that wants to use kind of what's going on with Coach Prime, which I understand, but to the point of kind of the stick it to the man type of thing. And what happens is, I want you to win now. I want you to dominate. I want to do stuff because we want to walk around and talk our stuff. We want a high step walking around the stadium like, and in these internet streets, these social media streets, like Prime high stepped on the field. And I'm like, that isn't fair to Mr. Sanders because it doesn't allow him to grow. You put a whole movement on him when he's still learning to coach, still learning to navigate all that. And I agree with that. That's why I'm sitting up here saying is that we got to stop, because it's kind of like people are trying to use another arrow in a battle versus just sit back and enjoy this man that has so much greatness in him. Develop a team, develop an organization. And guess what? If he goes 4-8 this year, let's say, I'm not saying I want him to, but let's say he does it, and then next year 9 and whatever 3. Why would that not be okay? That's kind of what I'm sitting here saying, is that I do realize is that that dominate, because again, once you start saying that, he's got to know that Prime is not on the field, it's your players, and unfortunately, you writing checks that they ain't ready to back up. They wasn't ready to back up last year. Hopefully, they can this year. Go ahead.
Let me push back just a little bit on he's learning how to coach. I would say he's not learning how to coach. I would say the college system, this level, has a little bit more nuances that he has to adjust to than saying he's learning how to coach. I don't think Prime or Deion Sanders is learning how to coach because he's been doing it for so long, right? I mean, he just got BJ Green, and he was BJ Green's coach when BJ Green was literally like 6 years old or whatever. So Coach Prime has been coaching for that long. You see what I'm saying? So he's been coaching and learning how to coach for that long after playing in Atlanta. You see what I'm saying? And now BJ Green is actually about to play for the guy that told him, you're not a running back, you're going to be a defensive player. That's the guy that told BJ Green that he was going to be a defensive player, and now he's a dominant defensive player who is possibly going to be in the NFL. So
Right. But I'm saying it from this standpoint.
That's not a guy that's learning. He has to adjust to the nuances. And I don't even know how I got this phrase in my head. He has to adjust to the nuances of the FBS football schemes to just but I don't think it's going to take him that long, or he even going to miss a step if he just makes the right adjustments and get Prime out of the way.
But what I'm saying it from this angle though, because even like Coach Saban would say stuff like he's still learning things like that. And I can tell you, even almost 25 years of serving, I was still learning to be a soldier. You know, even with all the hours I had in the cockpit, I was always learning to be a pilot. It doesn't mean that I was, that I wasn't proficient. It just basically means that there was always something else that I can learn to get better. So I'm not saying he's not proficient and not capable at all. And I get what you're saying, the nuances, but it is, hey, when you get to, because like, for example, when he was, at the high school level, and then he had to go into, the HBCU level, not the Power 5 level. And you're right, there are nuances. So I'm not saying that he's not competent and that he's a novice by any means. I'm just saying learning.
That's where we gotta make sure that we clarify that language, learning how to coach, because it can suggest amateur not knowing the coaching acromens that he needs to be able to make adjustments and to make the right calls. I don't think he's learning that. I think it's more on the lines of nuances that he has to pick up and just master those things that, you do this here. Oh, okay, so I got to do this here. I got to adjust here. I didn't have the opportunity to do it over there, but now I got to do it over here. Okay, fine. I get it now. He has 1 year, so I think he's good this year, but he got to show up and put it all together.
Right. Here's the other thing. I also know is, and I think people realize, okay, so having a staff, a lot of people, have never had to have a staff and direct things and make sure everybody's doing what they need to do. And because he's looking at different things. He's having to deal with administrators. He's having with boosters. He's got his own stuff going on. So when I'm speaking, folks, I know it may seem, well, it's just Prime, but I'm having been in that thing is sometimes you get leaders. Well, we saw this last year where sometimes you get leaders in there that you're not on the same page. And what do you do when you can't get on the same page? And that's the kind of thing you learn over time. So that's what I'm saying is that everybody's thinking, well, it was Sean Lewis and stuff like that. It may have just been to a point where there was just a disconnect somewhere and it just wasn't enough time to correct it, especially probably with the demands of a season. It's hard to build. Sometimes it's hard to still build an airplane while you're flying. That's what they call it. It's hard to learn how to fight while you're fighting. So now we get over into this thing and he's still learning some things. And now you've got, though he knows Schumer, you're going to bring in the DC and he doesn't know Load Hope, but he'll find out all that stuff you have to mesh together. And I don't really think, like, again, I don't know XOs. Wild Dog will break some stuff down for you that I couldn't even touch. But one thing I can say about the team, and I know folks want to sit here and say, no, none of that stuff matters. Yes, it does. When you go too far with not having a key leader in place, because people have to get comfortable with that person. That's not overnight. It does not happen where you just show up. All right, hey, folks, I'm showing up February the 15th. Here's my defensive book. Everybody, my playbook. That's how it goes. You have to bond with folks. And it's how you do it, because as a leader, you got to learn them, because everybody doesn't learn the same. So you have to be able to know their personalities, know stuff about their mama, know stuff if they got kids, know what their classes are, know all that kind of stuff, the way they learn, different models of how people learn, and mesh it, and then learn your assistants. So that's kind of what I'm sitting there saying, is that it's a far more complex than we want to say. So, because sometimes we focus on the flash and that gold jacket and not realize, folks, I'm sitting here to tell you right now, leadership don't change. It does not change. The leadership fundamentals are consistent. And that's all I'm kind of sitting there saying. So I expect that to be better. And I'm watching him change it, just like Wild Dog was saying. He's got people mentoring and talking and stuff like that. And you can see it. That's a great thing. Now you got to take that and make sure those under you know how to do it.
All right, Wild Dog, did you want to jump in here? We got a couple more minutes for the Untold. We are done, guys. We got at the end at 9:00. People got to go to work. You know what I'm saying? We got to respect that. So, Wild Dog, jump in here. Phil, you're still there, guy?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just trying to be respectful to everybody on the panel. That's all.
So go ahead if you want to jump in here and put your 2 cents in, because I'm going to be
Well,
asking for your final thoughts soon.
okay, yeah. So we were talking kind of offline in the chat. Wild Dog responded to what I was saying. I was asking, do you think, you know, th- I want to know, do you think that does the DC need to be from the NFL for this team to be successful? And I asked that because I don't think they have to. I understand that he wants to bring in a DC with NFL experience, but if you think about it, the NFL is following suit with college football in those schemes. So is it possible that somebody, while they may know X's and O's, are behind on how colleges are kind of running those schemes? I don't know. And also, is that DC going to be somebody that's going to come in and be willing to recruit? Because we all know whether it's the portal, whether it's junior college, whether it's high school, or even recruiting your own guys to keep them from leaving the transfer portal. Recruiting is the bloodline
Yeah.
to your team in college football. So I just want to say we have to be mindful of always focusing on we got to get somebody with NFL experience. You just want to get the right coach in that's going to have the right schemes, going to make those connections with people, and is going to do the work to get the best players to come play for Colorado.
Was it NFL that I heard somebody say that the coach or the DC or the coach was just a guy that just had some high school experience, and he came in and now he's like one of the most dominant coaches in the league. I don't know if that was the Big 12 or that was if I heard that on the NFL broadcast. Like, this just got this guy straight out of high school, and I only bring that up to say where I kind of second I second what Phil is saying, is that it's cool to have an NFL guy, but it's not necessary. Not for us. It's not necessary that we have an NFL DC, because the NFL mentality, you're coaching a bunch of rich guys versus a bunch of kids that need to be, coached up, and they're still trying to come up in themselves. They're dealing with issues that those rich men are not dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So the way that you talk to kids, the way that you talk to young men, let me just say young men, the way that you talk to young men, it ain't going to be the same that you talk to grown folk. So maybe the adjustment period may be a little bit tough, or I don't know who they're bringing in. I'm ready for him to be here already. Like I'm ready for him to be here. You got to be here already. Let me just look in the daggone camera and just say, hey, man, you got to be here already.
Hey, but listen,
I'm
he
sorry.
was on Coach Sanders was on Undisputed earlier today, if I'm not mistaken, and he said it possibly within the next 48 hours. So
Yeah, he said that before, but
I,
everybody jumped on me when I
Y-
told you he said
Yeah,
that.
I remember. I think it was this time last year we were talking about, 48 hours he was going to have an announcement or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be somebody, we're going to get an announcement really soon. But yeah, I would say the sooner the better. The sooner the better. Go ahead and build that chemistry, and not just with the players, but with the coaching staff. Because you got to think you're going to bring in a DC, and he can't pick who he wants his DB coach to be, who his linebacker coach to be. So he's going to have to start meshing, with his other peers and the people who are going to be answering to him, because he's a defensive coordinator. So you want to make sure that the people under you are bought into you. They're going to believe in him because
Colorado fans don't
Coach
care about
Sanders,
that talk. This talk right now, right?
you know what?
Colorado Colorado
Then
fans
screw
are the
it.
type of fans where, oh no, just bring anybody in.
No, no.
We be fine.
No, I'm gonna go full hate. It don't even matter who Dion, Coach Prime, whatever you want to call him, bring in. Colorado going 4-8 again this year. Boom. That's what y'all want. Y'all hate. Type in the chat. Do all that other stuff y'all like to do. Me and DC, 2 tons of hate, baby. That's what we bringing. 2 tons of hate.
Oh
Hey,
man.
but Phil, I know you have concerns and you're bringing up some good points, but I mean, it's like you talked yourself in a circle back and answered your own question, about the DC. So, I mean, all the points you hit on and what's necessary or not necessary, it's going to be answered, right? And then, you know, the point, you know, y'all making about NFL experience. I mean, even Coach Prime has said himself, no, I couldn't do professional. I'm going to be honest with you. That just ain't going to work for me. We're going to go into the room, you know what I'm saying?
At halftime, everybody
and
be
at least
cut.
a third of the team is going to be gone. So you have, trust me, you have people who are working their career, who are in the NFL just to build their resume and build up their experience, but who would just be more than happy, I've got money, right, to come down and work with young men and feel like that's what their mode is. And they have a list, okay, you know, that they're working off of, you know, and it went from like, oh, we got someone great to like, oh, we have options now. And it's like, oh, take your foot off the gas. It's like, because let's see what all the dust settles. We have options here, and any of these options would be great. And that's where you have Mr. Sanders kicking in, because primetime would already punch the button and been like, woo, and lay out the PR map and you know.
Yeah, he almost let some skip earlier on Undisputed. He almost let some slip if you saw the interview.
Yeah, exactly. So where primetime was like, okay, let me put it out there because we're set. Let me go ahead and put it out there, plant the seed. Let me put it out there, let it roll. But then Mr. Sanders is like, yeah, but the difference between door 1, door 2, and door 3, let me grind down to the nuances here, because he's as a mad scientist, because this way door 1, door 2, door 3 are not the same. They're all great, but they're not the same, if that makes sense. So all of that's going to be answered. NFL experience coming back from the NFL doesn't matter, because the person in the NFL doesn't necessarily want to be, where they're at.
No, I'm saying it doesn't
work with
matter.
the young men, but then the young men, when it comes to recruiting, any of these options would be able to go into someone's living room and have a conversation, right? And any one of these 3 that I'm aware of would be an instant draw. Period. Just them being on the staff is going to be instant draw. And if push come to shove and they have to go, make an appearance to close with a young man, they're more than capable of doing that. Because
my main concern
already, including Coach Prime, they know defense. So
Waldo,
knows defense is not necessary.
So this is my main concern. My main concern about the DC or whoever comes in is relatability. That's what I want is relatability.
I just saw my note, Harry. Thank you. You asked the question. I'm going to answer it. The ones that I'm aware of are going to be plug and play. It's a requirement. It's a requirement for Coach Prime and his staff that whoever comes is plug and play. Like Shermer. Shermer came in, the existing staff, the existing players, Shermer was able to come in and plug and play. So that's a requirement.
He's going to be relatable. This person is going to be relatable like Sherman. Shermer was not no agitator. Shermer, as hefty and his background going back so far as an NFL, Shermer seemed like he was a guy that was hungry, that wanted a job. Like that's and I didn't see, I'm bravado, NFL bravado all around him. I just saw a guy that just loved how to coach, and he loved coaching those kids.
But again, Shermer preferred to come to the college level. It was a preference.
Okay.
It was a preference. So again, we have somebody who could still be in the NFL coaching at whatever status or level, but it was a preference for Shermer. And when the opportunity, the situation best arose with someone he knew and familiar with, it's like, now now it's time for me to, pull the trigger and say, hey, let's have a conversation. I can be a blessing to you, and this is what I want to do. Yeah.
But I guess what I look at is from this standpoint. If you tell me I have to take this hill, and I don't get to pick my staff, and I only get to pick my soldiers. Mainly, the person's rolling in on people that are already there, and they're rolling in on players that they didn't recruit. So now I'm in here knowing, because let's say, for example, if he's a good DC, got an experience, well, she should be able to come in and do well. But there's a difference between I got to pick the people that I've already worked with before, so we already have a relationship, and I got to at least pick some. I got to at least pick some of the bullets that I need to shoot with. Because now you're in a situation where it's like,
DC,
I have
answer
to
this question.
go ahead.
Answer the question on the screen. Talk to Gerald D.
Okay, because I walked away from my computer, so my fault. Could you read it to me?
I would think a person who is successful to coach in the NFL can relate to others. Come on. Is it that easy? You've been in leadership position.
Man.
You've been leaders all the time. Talk to Gerald, please. Talk to GD.
Well, think about this. Coach Prime said he wouldn't coach NFL because it's a whole different type of mindset that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
They just trying to get paid. I mean, they want to win, and I heard Alfaru talking about that stuff. He, it was some other people that talk. I won't put it right on him, so let me take that back. But just saying that at that level, some people are just trying to make sure they get their money, make sure they get their stuff set. So it's a different set. Even Prime said that. So now you're coming down here where these kids are trying to get to the league, and sometimes that's a different thing because I've seen leaders go in and that just be frustrated that people ain't getting things on their pace. And sometimes people can, which I'm sure Prime is vetting them, you have to be able to work because that's something folks don't understand is that when you get older, you got to be able to work how people learn. Kids don't learn the way they did back in our days. I mean, kids these days, they let them use calculators. We couldn't use calculators when I was coming up. Hey, it wasn't no YouTube and all that other stuff. We had a freaking projector. So the point is the way we learn changed. And it's just not it's just not always as easy as you would think it's going to be. Because think about it. Saban saw that he was not getting production. So what happened to O'Brien? He wound up finding himself at the Patriots. Then, of course, they got fired. They had to get rid of him because he was not able to. He was the same guy that told Milroe, you don't need to be a quarterback. Milroe, you don't need to be a quarterback. So it's not as easy. You would think it is, and it's probably not as hard. But it's not always that easy.
So
okay,
the mentality
DC, Harry,
is a little different.
If I could push back a little bit, because DC, let me give you this analogy, right? Right? Military.
Keep it 45 seconds because we about to be out.
Okay. Would you run with General Patton, or as a first lieutenant, would you insist on having your own special squadron?
I'd run with them.
Exactly. Thank you. Now go ahead, Harry.
Can you explain your point to the people who aren't in the military? Thank you.
Nah, you're going to have to break that down. What are you talking about?
Well, that was just for DC. So it's like you have these charismatic, talented individuals like General Patton, right? Who ran things his way, who was set apart and different. Where even the superiors over General Patton didn't much like for him at all, but he was so effective, right, that they dealt with him. And anyone, regardless of your situation, coming into his battalion, his squadron, right, you had to fall in line. You had to fall in line. Like everybody policed themselves. It was a whole total culture that was set apart from the army itself, right? So you had people that complained who had to get washed out and get medical and all this stuff coming under General Patton. You had other people trying to compete, like the McCarthy and so forth, in their performance in the field, but they couldn't with General Patton. It's a whole separate culture, whole separate animal.
Back to Colorado so that we can wrap this up.
So when you're bringing in a coach, they got to be plug and play. You know what that looks like. Sherman knows what that looked like firsthand because he's done it, right? They know what they're looking for, and they have someone that come in, the OC, who did it himself. So they have fresh eyes and firsthand knowledge of what that's going to look like in Colorado being plug and play, filling in all the check boxes and coming in under Coach Prime. Coach Prime is General Patton. He's set apart. He does things different. He sees things differently, right? It's not the normal standard operating procedures. It's not the normal tradition of football. And don't expect it to be.
I see where you're going. Listen, look. Let me just say this. I see where you're going with that. I get it, and I understand it. But listen, everybody's not a Coach Prime. Every man is not cut out to easily assimilate, and we have to understand that. We have to understand that if you come in and you're like a Sean Lewis, where you can't really understand a Shador's personality and really be able to help a Shador to groom a Shador and help him to get to that next level, and y'all having a little bit of friction, and you can't really get this alpha kid, well, I'm going to say alpha man, right? This alpha man kid, right? In understand who he is, then we know that there are going to be nuances that you have to understand coming in, even though you are brought in as a plug and play.
Yes, Harry, and I want to just quickly respond.
There have been coaches that have left the college realm, and now we got another Harbaugh going to college. He won at Michigan. Now everybody's thinking that he's going to go to the NFL with the Chargers, and he's going to be just that good. It's not going to. It doesn't always translate communication-wise. People buying into your system-wise, it doesn't always translate. It's just a little bit of thing that I want people to think about, because it's not just easy to just be like, oh yeah, plug and play, because Coach Prime can plug and play. Pause right there, please, and think about it. Go ahead, DC, so we can wrap up.
Right, but the thing is, Wild Dog, just saying this, just consider this, is that Patton was a great technician, but he was, one of the issues he had was he mistreated a soldier that was wounded, and he accused them of malingering, which he wasn't. So that's kind of where I'm saying that, because I've studied Patton, I've studied a lot of them. It's that was that thing, is that the nuances of. But as far as being a great tactician, you're 1,000% right. And I guess I get where you're coming from, and I know what you mean. But now you have to sit back and say, well, hey, at this stage, you know that you're going to pick the right person that's going to go in, and everything is going to be all right. I don't know that, so I can't say either way. I just know, kind of, alluding to what you're saying, is that Coach Sanders will make the best decision he can.
So let me ask a question, Gerald D. How we know it's a black coach? Gerald D's like, you saying when it comes to black folks, black coaches?
I'm not saying anything about the list.
Ain't nobody talking about color here.
I'm not.
Ain't nobody talking about no color. We're not levying anything against any black coach or qualification. We're talking about assimilation. We're talking about relatability, because it could be a white coach, it could be a black coach. If you come in, are you going to be relatable? When Warren Sapp came in, those kids love him. All right. We're talking about Prime, not the DC, but nobody's talking about Coach Prime's ability. We're not talking about Coach Prime's ability. But anyways, guys, let's end this show. The schedule is in front of us. You're looking at the show. You're looking at the schedule. Coach Prime is going to go deep into this Big 12, and he has the talent to do it. And I will start with you, Phil. What are your final thoughts on this schedule and what you think we're going to be able to do in the Big 12?
I think Colorado got a really fair shake with this. They don't have any crazy Thursday games. There's only one Friday game, which is the Oklahoma State game, and that's the end of the season after Thanksgiving. The schedule looks manageable. The team is going to have to put it out on the field, but I'm going to have to be honest with you, man. I'm actually starting to get excited about the season now that I'm seeing that schedule out. So I'm looking forward to it. I still don't have a quote-unquote prediction, but the schedule is shaping up really well for Colorado to have a successful season, at the very least get to a bowl game.
And this is coming from our resident hater. Was that fair to say?
No, I think in one of your last shows you said detractors.
You've gotten softer, bro. What happened to you over time?
But
did we win you over?
No, you haven't. I just want to be honest, man. Like, I really do want Colorado to be successful. I really do want Coach Sanders to be successful. I'm just coming at it a different way. I'm not as bought in as some of you guys are. And guess what? That's okay, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want him to be successful. It's just a matter of how strongly some of us believe. That's all.
Okay, so that we kept 2 Corinthians, right? Okay. So so go ahead, DC Carson. Your thoughts, your final thoughts, so we can end this show.
My final thoughts is, one, for everybody that always seems to kind of sit back and nitpick, they can always call into the show and share your plethora of knowledge that you have, rather than sitting back and just picking every little thing and showing that sometimes you are not practicing active listening skills, which means you're waiting to respond, not hearing and responding to what you've heard. But I'm not finna school you. I'm just gonna say Friday, I expect the smack talkers to call on in. We can go back and forth and we can smoke on smoke, baby, because we can do this all day. The other thing I would sit back and say is I'm hopeful. I could be sitting around watching something on Netflix, but I'm supporting Harry and I'm going to support my dude all day long. We want to talk about color. Part of that is supporting brothers like him and lifting it up and just being able to comparison and contrast. That makes for a great conversation, because pep rallies get old after around 30 minutes, if you hadn't noticed. So what I see Colorado doing, I see them being able to do some great things. I think they'll come around. They'll throw some balls. I don't think around the field. I think the defense will be better. They're going to do some stuff. I don't think the season will be as easy as it was. I can't give it as some do. I can't give it a prediction. I'm just expecting to be improvement. And if I see improvement, that's good enough for me, even if they do go 5-7. But I hope they do better than that.
That was a prediction, but anyways, that was definitely a 5-7 was a prediction. You must be thinking we're not listening, but go ahead, Wild Dog.
Oh, and real quick, Peter, I was a pilot. I flew Black Hawks, but before that, I was an armed reconnaissance pilot, which means
do it, DC. You're going down the slope.
Which means I done shot missiles. I've flown aircraft. I've shot missiles, all kinds of stuff.
You don't want to engage. Do not engage. Abort. Abort.
Just letting y'all know that you ain't talking to a dummy.
Abort mission. I keep telling y'all. Leave the comments.
Hey.
Oh man.
Oh boy, Harry B. I'm glad to schedule it out now, because I can start planning my trip for the Tech game. But then I'm a little bit nervous, because I feel like, especially I'll go ahead and say when we start the season 4-0. 5-0, that the Tech game might be moved to a different venue. I might plan to be in Lubbock, and they might mess around and be in my backyard in Arlington playing at the Cowboys Stadium. So I'm a little bit nervous. So I'm going to plan to be in Lubbock for the Texas Tech game, and now I have a date. So I'm happy about that. And then the second thing I'm happy about, is that after the Colorado State game, and after I know we're going to be banged up, we'll be at home against Baylor. And it will be a softer test. I'm not calling Baylor soft, but it will be a softer test for our depth chart. Coming off of the Colorado State game, being at home against Baylor, that would be a telltale sign for us. Because it's going to be a test of our depth.
Okay, so I think Colorado is going to have a good season. And we can have a great season, and this could be Coach Prime's breakout year. But I don't want to see Coach Prime. I want to see Coach Deion Sanders, and
Mr. Sanders.
I want to see that's your thoughts, okay? You had your chance. I want to see Coach Sanders show up on that sideline, and I think it's like this. It's twofold. If we run the ball, Shador can have a 5,000 season, more throwing opportunities if we run. And if Coach Sanders shows up, then Prime will have his chance to do his dance. You see what I did there? You see? Go ahead. No, you're muted. You're muted. You got to unmute. You got to unmute. You got to unmute.
Maybe we can agree that the coach is Deion Sanders and the Prime is Prime Time. That's the two halves of the man that we need to show up.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I like Prime for putting the butts in the seats, but I don't like Prime for coaching because he's too flashy as a coach, and I'm looking for more of a blue-collar type of coach. So I'm like, I know how smart and meticulous that the Deion Sanders is, the one that got the gold jacket is, but the Prime is in the way because he wants to show off a little bit. He wants to do it with a little bit of fan flair. He wants to put people to shame. He wants to two-step on your grandson who's not even born yet. Like that's how much of a beast this guy really is. And I'm like, I know you can do it, but you gotta let Deion coach so that Prime can get his chance to dance. That's the only way it happens. Prime wants to dance before Deion can coach. So for people that don't understand the differences between a Prime and a Deion, go watch some interviews about Prime and why Prime was started. You have to understand who Prime is and why he was started. But Deion is really the football mind. Deion is really the elite football mind that people don't really think that people don't really know. And I wish that Deion Sanders would show up this year more so than Prime, because Prime is great for marketing. Prime is great for getting the butts in the seats. He's great for everything that we need for the fans to feel like this is exciting. We need to talk about this. But yet, Deion is getting dominated. And Deion is the winner, but he's getting dominated by Prime's bravado. And that's just what I think about it. And you know what I'm saying? This is a great schedule. I'm telling you, I got some videos coming that's going to more so dig deeper into that Big 12 so you can see why I keep thinking if everybody shows up at the same time, it's indicative. It's imperative that everybody shows up at the same time. So if I make any predictions on this channel, guys, it's going to be predicated upon everybody showing up at the same time. If I get excited, it's going to be because I'm looking for everyone to show up at the same time. And this is going to be one dangerous Colorado football team if everybody can show up at the same time. So just know that when I say we're going to dominate or we're going to do certain things, that's only going to be based on everybody showing up. If everybody don't show up, then you're going to be like, Harry, see, that didn't age well. You're going to be saying those things again. So that's my final thoughts. Hey, guys, blessings for everybody. I appreciate you guys always for calling in. And, you know, I appreciate you, man. Y'all have a good day. This was an impromptu type of thing because the schedule came out. So I had to call the jury back. I had to call the old team back to come on here and chat with me. And I appreciate you guys chatting with me. DC, Phil, Wild Dog, I appreciate you guys. Hey, guess what? Even Flocka showed up. I ain't seen Flocka in a minute. Flocka showed up a little earlier. He probably had to go, but I appreciate the team. You guys always coming and having my back, man. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
All right, brother.
All right, cheers, guys. Salute.